All right, welcome back to Relatable, you guys. My name is Justice.
My name is Anusha.
And we are a couple. I say that because today we're reacting to a Jubilee video entitled, Is It Okay to Have a Preference of Race? Interracial couples, agree or disagree? We are an interracial couple, and I'll just give my 2 cents right off the bat. I think it's okay to have a preference, as long as you're not looking down on other people or putting other people down. You know, what other people do is none of my business, none of anybody else's business. So it's okay to have a preference.
That's a good point. I don't think it's okay to have a preference. So if you have a preference, let's say you have XYZ race preference and you're going out and seeking those people, outwardly, the first thing you see is their appearance. So already you're kind of creating this caricature in your head of what a person of that race should look like, even though people come in all different shapes, sizes, colors, what have you. And I feel like when you have a preference of a certain race, you have this caricature of stereotypes that you've kind of put together in your head of what you expect that person to be, and that kind of guides your interactions with them. Summary is Justice thinks it's okay to have preferences. I think it's not okay to have preferences.
A preference of race, because it's a preference, or because it's okay to have a preference of anything. It's okay to have preferences.
You can have
financial.
Women have preferences all the time about height, is an example.
Height, weight, like all that. It's okay, but just don't put other people down.
The freak stuff in the bedroom. If race sprinkles is put into that context, what do we think of that? Like
how would race be put into the bedroom?
Use your imagination.
See, no, he's talking about some.
He was talking about some
weird role play.
I have unintentionally been racist towards my partner. 3, 2, 1, go.
I've definitely been ignorant.
So we were. I
wrote it down.
So we had an argument, and I was upset, and I had previously expressed how the stereotype or the stigma on angry black men or angry black women and how that makes me feel. And so we got into an argument. I was an angry black man, but in that moment of anger, he actually called me an angry black man, which
is like the worst thing
made me go crazy because that was like the one thing, and I talked to him about. So that was a really bad fight, and it never happened again.
Right.
Yeah, I don't like those kind of stigmas that put like emotions or like adjectives on people, because you're gonna wind up being angry as a person, as a human sometimes, but you feel like you can't because like, oh, I don't want to fall into that stereotype.
I think one of the things you risk running is when you date anybody for long enough, you start to become really comfortable.
Yeah.
And you kind of start to think that, you're one of the same or whatever. And so it's easier for you to say things that you think are okay.
That part. And the longer you're with someone, obviously, the more comfortable you get. And sometimes you are going to slip up. And it just takes patience and it takes correction. Right. And understanding like, oh, I said that. I'm so sorry. Like, let me not say that again. Right. It's a very simple fix.
Right.
But it's bound to happen.
I think as just a white person, I am just inherently ignorant, so I think I'm gonna move to somewhat agree.
I'm from the Bay, so it used to be in my vocabulary where I would say the N-word with the A. My slang in general would just tick her off, and then I became conscious of it, and I really liked her, or I still do, of course. I love you.
Okay guys, so we're gonna do something different. This is called hot takes, and basically we had our audience submit hot takes and assumptions that they make about interracial relationships. They're really hot.
Oh boy.
Sex gets steamy since you are interracial.
I think it adds to
I like the differences between us.
You got any thoughts before they even?
Yeah, that's really gross.
Yeah, I don't even know what that means exactly. Like I do know what it means.
I know that there's people that think like that.
Yeah. And it goes back to the
fetishizing thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
It does, because it's like, oh, I never had this. Or
everybody is a human that has the same parts. Like, what about race, which is a social construct, is making that more steamy?
Mental.
I don't know.
It's in their head.
It's in their heads.
Fetishizing, so. That's actually a dumb take.
I will say, like, when I'm not with you, people will like be like, oh, like, I know why you're with the black guy. And it's like, that's like super disrespectful, because it's like, that's like definitely like on the line of like fetishizing like a race.
There's not many sexual stereotypes about white men. But like walking down the street, especially dating an Asian woman, like I get looks from men all the time, being like, oh, like, you know, right? And like people like actually like calling me out while I'm right next to her.
Interracial relationships can be a fetish, and that's okay if it's love too.
Even if you love the person, you just fetishizing that person is
feel like it
good at all.
devalues
Yeah, and
it.
you're devaluing the entire community in itself.
I think there's always room for growth, so I can understand if it starts as a fetish and then along, you know,
I'm confused by the question.
Basically, he was like, is it okay to fetishize someone if it's also love in that relationship too?
I can't conceptualize that.
So let's say I fetishize Indian women, right? So it starts off as a fetish, like I just love Indian women, something about them, blah blah blah, beautiful eyes, beautiful hair, blah blah blah. Is it okay if I am in love with you? Like obviously, everything starts off as physical. So everything starts off as physical, but if it becomes love, is it okay?
And so if it is a relationship, and that too like a serious relationship, if it is based on a fetish, it's gonna fall apart very soon. So that's why I just can't fathom like a proper relationship born out of a fetish, if you will.
So do you know the definition of a fetish?
Fetish, according to the Oxford Dictionary, a form of sexual desire in which gratification is linked to an abnormal degree. So it's an abnormal sexual desire to a particular object, item of clothing, part of the body, etc. Blah, blah.
So my thing is, you can make that case about anything. The only reason why we say, oh, feet is a fetish, because it's not widely, talked about. Like not a lot of people have that preference. But if a lot of people have a preference, then it's not so much a fetish, it's like the norm. So that's why I think like having a preference for anything, race, financial status, social status, what they're wearing, whatever. Again, if you love the person and you guys are happy, I think that's the biggest thing.
Where do you draw the line between, because you can, when you meet someone, you can be sexually attracted to them, right?
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line between being sexually attracted to them and fetishizing them?
I kind of understand what you mean, because if a woman said, oh, I like you because you're handsome, you got black skin, that's different than saying, oh, I like you because you're black. Because and then I'd be like, well, it's a lot of black niggas out here, so do you really like me, or you just like the skin?
But why are we so offended by that, but not offended by, oh, I like you because of your skin? Because there's a billion other girls that have the same complexion too.
Right? It's the way you phrase it and the way we conceptualize it, I guess. Like the way we take it. Because again, it's the same thing. Like, oh, I like your skin, Justice. It's black. It's beautiful. Oh, thank you. You like me. Oh, I like, your skin is black. Oh, thank you. Like it's the same thing, but at the same time, it's not. So again, it's all about. It goes back to the not the golden rule, but it's not what you say, it's how you say it.
That is.
So that's the biggest thing.
relationship, they actually fall in love with that person and they realize that, okay, it wasn't okay for me to initially just like you based off of that.
The freak stuff in the bedroom, if race sprinkles is put into that context, what do we think of that?
It doesn't even matter if you're consenting or not, it's still wrong.
Yeah.
Right? Like you want to say that stuff, you want to do that stuff because of the stereotypes you have of those people. And that doesn't really sit right with me whatsoever.
I have always wanted mixed babies. 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm real into genetics. I would like to see how my kids would turn out in
Every race. Jeez. As a mixed race person myself, you don't have a group of people to really be around. I mean,
I like that just because like you can always wonder like, oh, what are babies? What would our babies?
You can
look
always
like?
wonder, but I
But
think
yeah, no,
maybe
to
like
do a
it's
whole
different.
relationship and everything
just for that.
Yeah,
which there are people that do that.
that's tough. If you're out there, no, just
Yeah.
kidding. I ain't gonna say no.
for me, it sucked actually a lot. I've accepted myself I'm black and proud. I love the fact that I have both of these cultures and I really don't care. I just have to teach my kids that because of your skin tone, you either gain privileges or lose privileges.
Like I've had people at work, like we'll be talking about ourselves and I'll show them a picture of Ivan and they'll be like, oh my God, I totally wanted black babies like when I was like a teenager. And it's just like, this isn't Build-A-Bear, like this is a human, like what the
So in my mind, I wanted to have kids that was exactly my skin tone or very close to it and look like me, because I am conceited as well. Where the hell I'm gonna find somebody to do that and it work out and they're just a perfect wife? I don't believe in that anymore.
It's funny because that was actually something we talked about when we first started dating. That became an insecurity of mine. I was like, so why are we dating? Because I cannot provide absolutely any of that for you. And so I understand, like I said, why he feels that way, why a lot of the black community feels that way. So I'm just glad that I'm accepted now in our relationship for that.
I sometimes feel like I betrayed my own race.
So basically, I don't agree with the whole I want to have mixed kids thing, so let me make that clear.
Same.
I guess to play devil's advocate, I know we seek certain traits. I don't want kids, so I have a hard time understanding this, but I know people in general, I guess they kind of seek partners that they want to have kids like obviously if you want someone intelligent and successful, you want those traits in your kid. I guess the genetics component goes with it too. So I feel like yes, people sometimes look for certain traits in their partners that they would like to see in their kids. The whole mixed babies thing though, I feel like is a blatant like denial of certain traits that you don't want in yourself.
I would say I agree to what the dude was talking about in regard to like if as a black man, like you kind of want to be able to relate to your kid. Like I understand even at a young age that being black, like my skin tone and being light skinned, even though we're both black, we live kind of separate lives because they don't really have necessarily like a place to fit in. Like people think like, oh, you're black and you're white, best of both worlds. No, because it's like either world. Like you don't fit in, you know, with the whites and you don't fit in with the blacks because it's like, oh, you're light skinned, oh, you know, you're dark. So I would also kind of agree. Like I thought that I would be dating or like marrying like a black woman just to, you know, get that black love, to get that black love. But no, for real, just to, you know, kind of keep. I don't know. I feel like it would be kind of for like the culture and just, you know, like having a healthy black relationship, having a healthy black family unit.
I just
want love.
Yeah. I used to, I guess, prioritize obviously my own race, and I've never touched anybody out. That is a cultural thing.
Well,
but like what I've come to realize is, you can look for people in your race if like cultural similarity is a goal of yours, or like maintaining your culture is a goal of yours. But just because somebody's the same race and they grew up in like the whitest part of town or whatever, there's no guarantee that your experiences have been the same. They can physically present as the same race as you, but that does not mean their experiences are the same as you at all. And this could go with any race. They could physically present as this caricature of an experience that you have in your head, but that does not mean that's actually what they grew up with at all.
3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah. I definitely feel like that, man. I feel like, especially where I'm from, I did my people a disservice by playing into that stereotype. And knowing what I stand for now, it's hard for me to feel like I'm gonna be taken serious in the future if I ever wanna speak on controversial topics. My people won't respect what I say because like it doesn't add up, my views and stuff, and then I'm dating somebody outside of my race behind the scenes. I feel like I lose respect in a way.
So look, as a black man, no, I'm just kidding. Like he's speaking nothing but facts. Like,
Go ahead.
And just, like I
Justice has dated a white woman.
Okay, yeah. So like I dated a white woman very briefly, but I understood like you have your views about my relationship, that's fine, but ultimately I have to live with this person. Like this is, my love life. So I don't really care what other people think. But the truth of the matter is, again, you have to understand and you have to accept not the consequences, but the repercussions of your actions, right? Mm-hmm. So even dating you, like, I understand, obviously it's more acceptable and people are gonna be like, oh, they're so cute, they're so beautiful, because you are of a darker skin. Mm-hmm. But if I was to date somebody light skinned or white, then I know that would come with the territory. of dating them. You know, people wouldn't see me as like, they would think I was a sellout or something like that. But again, I don't really care because you're not putting money in my pockets, and you know, your views shouldn't really have an effect on my life like that. You know, I don't think that's really fair. And I know you, like you know, it's even worse. Like, I don't know, can I say it's like worse in the Indian community? Because you guys are like arranged marriage and everything. Like you guys want to.
Yeah, culturally, it's very much like.
It's. Like you're really going against the grain.
Correct. Yeah, very much so. I think the whole arranged marriage practice is there for a reason, right? They're looking for partners that are as close of a match to their kids as possible, and that means lining everything up. And when you line everything up, it happens to be race as well, obviously. Parental styles, parental language, parental culture, all of that stuff lines up. So it's definitely against the grain, yeah.
We're always seen as black, whether it was because of how I looked or how I talked or my culture. But then when I get with someone who's not black, right, they're like, oh, you're betraying us. Oh, like I get comments literally in my DMs being like, oh, Alex, you're not with us no more, right? And I'm like, do you want me or do you not want me, you know? It doesn't bother me if you don't want me, and I understand it is what it is, but don't pick and choose and don't nitpick little things, right? If you want me to be part of your community, then accept me for who I am. Don't say that because I'm half, I don't get to participate in certain topics or certain discussions.
Oh, and I also want to say, people who, if you want to date within your race, that's totally fine. But for you to put that expectation on another person, I think it's really no different than what the white people were doing. Like with the whole like, oh, you know, if you're a white person, you can't date a black person, we're gonna look down upon you. If you a black person, you can't date a white person, we're gonna look down upon you. Like you guys are stuck in these very traditional, conservative like ways, and it's like, as a people, you know, as a country, as a world, we will never get to where, you know, most people want to be. Obviously, some people don't want to be there because they're in power and stuff like that. But we will never get to the point where we are living in sort of like utopia if we don't accept everybody's views. Right. If I want to date a person who has one arm, and that's my, you know, that's my
That's
preference,
why I don't have any
just
issue with
accept
the whole babies thing again. I don't have an issue with mixed kids at all. In fact, I think, again, like I said, thanks. Something was itchy in my eye. Is it gone?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just if that's the primary reason. Like,
correct.
And it's more for the kid. It's like, that's kind of sad. You're only having them because you want a mixed baby.
Right.
Like, you know. So I understand that, and that's a valid point. But it's just like, again, don't look down upon people. That's like my biggest pet peeve. So. Yeah.
Being linked to another race has its benefits. 3, 2, 1, go.
I guess I linked.
Say that again.
I said I get to have an Indian wedding. That's what my friend said though. He's like, "Oh, y'all getting married? Okay, we get to have an Indian wedding." I was like, "I guess that's a benefit, but there's benefits to dating any race. Like you get to experience that culture. I think that's the biggest part of it."
Oh, that's good.
One of the benefits is like you're able to see into that culture a little bit. Even though all people, like let's say, you know, you date a black person, all black men are not the same. But in general, we have certain things that we can relate to. We grown up as black people in America. So you get to pick up on some of those things that majority or a lot of black men have encountered, or, you know, certain, like characteristics that they may have, you know?
I feel like the word like linked kind of confused me, because I feel like experiencing another person's experience, like what their culture, like the way that they live, is definitely personally beneficial. But I think that like in terms of how others view me because I'm dating a white man, I don't find that beneficial. Like I feel like people might have like preconceptions about who I am because I'm an Asian person who's chosen to date a white man.
I don't know. It seems just so backwards minded. Like the whole being linked to another race has benefits. I think the only benefit that can come out of it is the fact that I'm really liking that person for a person. Like the whole, like before, I guess I used to seek out people of my own culture, and that's kind of like a guidance, if you will. Like that should converge to a positive ending. But I think when you take that, road out of it, it's like the only thing you have going for you is that this person is another human. There's no similarity as far as culture or anything like that. So if anything, you choose to appreciate that person more.
That's why I said, like, I stopped thinking like, oh, I need to date a black woman. Because I was like, Number one, is that the only characteristic that my wife is gonna have? Like she black. Number two, you're limiting yourself. Like did God tell you that your wife is gonna be black? Like again, you can have that preference, but that shouldn't be the only characteristic.
I feel like an outsider with my partner's family. 3, 2, 1, go.
So I'm sorry, Grace. In our lives, especially today, recently, politics plays such a huge part in it. And because you come from a conservative household, that's different from where I come from.
Having a conservative family, though, in the 21st century is not unheard of, just because it wasn't that far back where these laws are starting to change. So I will say, and I'm a little biased, but black families are like typically accepting of all races except for one, and for valid reasons. Or not, for kind of valid reasons. Like, if I brought home an Indian wife, or Indian woman, obviously my family, they don't see you any different. But if you were white, I'm not gonna lie, they would have some, they would be a little reserved in the fact that I'm dating a white woman. And it's just because of the history, the recent history that black people and white people have. So that's the only race. Other than that, I feel like black people are accepting of Mexican, white, or Mexican, black, Indian, whatever.
Do I feel like an outsider in your family? Not really. If I do feel any outsiderness, it's not because of race. Mm-hmm. It's probably just culturally what I grew up with. Yeah. I grew up with very different rules than justice and very different expectations than justice. So being in a different environment as far as parental expectations is definitely different. Mm-hmm. But purely out of race, no, not really.
Know that I'm gonna be meeting people and have to have close relationships with them, and they don't value what I feel like I value in my life.
He's actually the first black man I have ever dated and the only person of color within my family just in of itself. And so certain members of my family with the same political values as us had to kind of confide in me hey, we support you with whoever you date, we're here for you. So it was interesting to kind of see the different sides of my family members that I didn't necessarily know.
When I met her father for the first time, we were walking to get food and we saw the Ronald Reagan Museum or something like that. And he's like, oh yeah, I love Ronald Reagan, right? And you can have your own personal opinions on presidents, but Ronald Reagan was he's the main reason why black people are incarcerated. He's not a very good person to black people. So I was just kind of cracking up about that, and I was kind of awkward, and I know you kind of bit your tongue on that as well.
It was hard to not say anything.
But I was thinking about saying something to maybe be oh, I don't know about that, but I didn't want to argue with your father on the very first day that I met him. Yeah. Yeah, that wouldn't be very fun.
I would say I somewhat agree because with my partner's family, there's a language barrier. So I guess it's my responsibility now to try to learn the language, but sometimes when we're together, they're talking, I have no idea what's going on. So I think that's a bit of why I feel like an outsider, but other than that, I feel welcomed.
I wish we were the same race. 3, 2, 1, go.
I'll start. I feel like that would just be the default easiest way to navigate through life. But
I say I agree too. Realistically speaking, there are some barriers, right? And I just remember I was talking about that, using race as a guide to find somebody that'll be
you'll be well off with. No one's gonna question it. You know that you're gonna have some certain
it's the easiest
cultural
route.
Values. Yeah.
But there are certain personality traits about justice that without all these interracial hoops, if justice was just Indian, I'd be sure. I have no self-hate against Indian race or anything like that. And so yeah, even if he was Indian, I'd be yeah, that's cool. And actually we would still work out the same because it's all his personality.
Yeah, but you do love because I'm black. No, I'm just kidding.
Definitely, obviously growth happens when you're in interracial relationships. But yeah, that's kind of why I chose somewhat agree.
Yeah, I guess like you were saying, I just feel like it would be easier in some aspects, and then for me, just being mixed race, I have felt very disconnected from my culture. So I feel like dating someone who was Chilean or who was Korean would help me. But I also agree, obviously, if you weren't white, you wouldn't be you, and so I don't wish that. And
the benefits outweigh what I gain. It kind of sounds weird coming out because it's what do you guys get out of dating white people? But white people, I feel we learn a lot.
And you guys, that is officially a wrap.
I think she made a good point. Being of a certain race and like having the certain qualities that you have has made you the person that you are, right? If I was white and I grew up the same way, obviously I would have a different life experience and I would have different views on who I am as a person and who, you know, the world in general.
Right.
So me being black is the reason why I am who I am.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna end it with the kiss, you guys.
No! No!
I'm just kidding.
Okay.
All right, that was the end of the video. If you haven't already subscribed, obviously subscribe. And let us know your thoughts down below to any of the questions that was asked in the video.
And
All
my
right.
man does IT. Okay.
Okay, that's racist. That's racist.
When I
Subscribe.